Hello and welcome to today's webinar on ESTCP funding opportunities. My name is Stephanie Lawless and I will be moderating today's session. We will get started in a few moments. While we wait for others to log on, I would like to cover a few logistical items. Today's broadcast will be listen only. We will have a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. You may submit questions by using the Q&A box on your screen. You do not need to wait until the Q&A period to submit your questions. In fact, we encourage you to submit them in advance of that session. The phone lines will remain listen only throughout the presentation, so we will not be taking any questions verbally. We will not be able to answer questions about specific proposal ideas or technologies during this webinar. If you run into any technical difficulties, please use the chat box to ask for assistance. Please note that both the audio and the presentation of today's session will be archived on our solicitation webpage in case you would like to refer to them in the future. Today's speakers are Dr. Herb Nelson, the Director of ESTCP, Dr. Andrea Leeson, the Deputy Director of ESTCP, and Mr. Tim Tetreault, the ESTCP Installation Energy and Water Program Manager. Before I turn it over to Herb, Andrea, and Tim, I would like to remind phone participants that this is a listen-only session, and to submit questions, please use the chat box in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. Herb?
Thank you very much, Stephanie. We'd like to welcome you all from snowy Washington to wherever you are today. So before we start, this is clearly about ESTCP, the program on the right, but I want to make sure everyone knows we're really two programs in our office. We're Sirte, the Strategic Environmental Research and Development Program, which is a science and technology program on the left of your screen. And then the subject of today, the Environmental Security Technology Certification Program, which in Department of Defense words is a demonstration validation program. So that's what we're talking about today. So we, for program management reasons, break ourselves up into 5 different program areas. And if you go to the solicitation website, you'll see that the topics that we're soliciting in are broken up in those same program areas. Installation, energy, and water at the center at the top, environmental restoration, munitions response, resource conservation and resiliency, and then finally weapon systems and platforms. So there are many drivers to the work that both Sirte and ESTCP do. The next 2 slides are going to show you some examples of those, and I think as you look at these examples, you'll see where the topics that we're going to discuss later today flowed from. So the overall biggest issue for Sirte and ESTCP these days, flowing from the Secretary of Defense's priorities, are sustainability of ranges, facilities, and operations. And that ranges from threatened and endangered species management responsibilities to keep training ranges available, noise, which limits the training opportunity for aircraft and turbine-powered vehicles, through our response to the changing environment, toxic air emissions and dust, things like that. The second issue that we have, and the second goal of our programs, are to reduce current liability that we have for cleanups from past practices, and to do things smarter now and into the future to not build up so much liability. And of course, on the left-hand side of this, it shows you some traditional cleanups where we're cleaning up some groundwater issues or maybe UXO, as I said, on the left. And then on the right side, we talk more about controlling life cycle costs for DoD platforms by doing pollution prevention at the design phase, at the maintenance phase, and even at the end of life phase. So here are our program goals. ESTCP is designed to demonstrate these innovative, cost-effective environmental and installation energy technologies. Many times these technologies were developed under sponsorship by Sirte, but not always. Not oftentimes, but sometimes people bring us technologies that were developed otherwise. But the goal is to transition the technology out of the lab. So we don't want to end many of our R&D programs in with a final report that's very promise-filled, but we want to see the implementation at a DoD site. And then in the second large bullet, we're looking to structure the demonstration such that it can promote implementation. So we want to get the technology into a DoD facility, as I said. We want to get any regulatory or stakeholder issues solved so that everybody's on board. And of course, we've put priority on our topics, and you'll see the needs of the DoD user community. So our topics filter up from the DoD users to us, and that's how we solicit. So this is some talk about, on this slide, about how we handle an ESTCP demonstration. So the technologies are, as earlier I said we're two programs, so the technology should not be researchy. We should be done with the research questions. Now we're talking about implementation questions. And if it should also not be a commercial technology. If it's already commercialized technology, there's no benefit from a demonstration. So we're focusing on the first large bullet, a technology that can benefit from a demonstration or DoD installation. That may mean we have to find out what the right parameters for some software program are, or how to tune up our microgrid. We don't have a good handle on what the cost and the relative performance of the technology is going to do. That's definitely a large part of an ESTCP demonstration, to find out how does the technology perform compared to the benchmarks, and how much does it cost compared to the benchmarks. And of course, the third bullet is this technology transfer thing that we're always looking to do. We want to gather information that allows us to move these technologies from the R&D arena to the implementation arena. So I've already said the last bullet, but I'm going to say it one more time. Mature commercial technologies don't need demonstrations. They can just be ordered. We're talking about technologies that are in between R&D and commercialization. So I think this slide all flows from what I've talked about before. We definitely want to partner with stakeholders, and that could be regulators, that could be energy managers in an installation, that could be natural resources managers in an installation. And we want to do these tests at DoD facilities. We want to get as close to real conditions as we can. And that also allows us to do, as the second sub-bullet says, direct transition into the DoD. We want to validate operational cost and performance. A large part of the final report at the end of a ESTCP demonstration is the relative cost and the relative performance. Sometimes we engage independent test and evaluation groups. Other times this is done solely by the PI of the demonstration. It just depends on the particulars of the demonstration. And we're always looking to involve the regulatory and the user communities up front, so that there's no surprises when we go to try to do transition at the end. And we're keeping our eyes on tech transfer. That's been the whole point of this entire slide. So here are some of the things we do to accomplish those goals that we talked about in the last 3 or 4 slides. We always have a formal demonstration plan. We don't want to be figuring this out in the field. It's not an R&D effort. We want to write down in advance what we're going to do. We want to write down in advance what data we're going to gather to prove the worth, both cost and performance of the technology. And then we want to gather those data. So we go to the field with an approved plan. We execute collecting cost and performance data that we've agreed upon in the demonstration plan. And then, of course, the final report, as I said earlier, covers both the technical performance and the cost, and helps us get ready for transition. Sometimes that involves guidance and training. Sometimes that involves meeting with regulators or end users. Those are all particular to the demonstration. So here's how the process goes. We have 3 parallel processes. Most people will respond to the broad agency announcement. Those are private sector, universities, research, nonprofits, etc. Some will respond to the Department of Defense call, and also we have federal organizations that are not in DoD that have a call that's very parallel to the BAA. All 3 groups prepare a pre-proposal. This is a 5-page, pretty quick way to lay out your ideas. We use pre-proposal and proposal process to avoid the potential PI having to do a lot of work before they find out that they understood differently than we meant when we proposed the topic. So everyone provides a pre-proposal. There's a down selection by the ESTCP technical committees of those pre-proposals that we then ask for full proposals. Full proposals give an oral briefing, and then after that, selections are made. So here are the deadlines. Obviously, we're already past the solicitation release. We released it last Tuesday. Pre-proposals will be due in a couple of months. The first week end of the first week in March. I guess that's the Tuesday of the second week in March, so the first full week in March. We will get full proposals requested sometimes in June. That depends on the meetings of these technical committees. Full proposals will be due in August. Briefings will be in September. All of this, of course, is pointed toward getting selections done in October. So when the fiscal year rolls around, we can get approval from our management and get the contracting process started. So this is going to give a little bit more detail about each of the those top 3 things on the other slide, on the slide 2 ago. DoD, obviously, we're looking for demonstration projects that are to addressing DoD environmental requirements. To respond to the DoD call, of course, we must have a DoD lead for the project. They do a written short proposal, and we provide comments. Sometimes it'll be, we love the first half of this, but you're really getting off the topic in the second half. Or maybe we like 2 demonstrations we think would be smarter than 1. Those are kind of comments we would send, and then full proposal. The BAA and the outside federal organizations are pretty much the same process. The topic areas are a little more restricted for these 2 classes of performers. You can only respond to the topic areas that are published, and that we'll talk about in about 4 or 5 slides from now. After that, it's the same process, a short written pre-proposal. If we decide to request a full proposal, just as in the other case, we will provide comments and maybe ask for modifications or maybe not. These PIs are not expected to be as plugged into the DoD system, to have a good handle on where the installation might be to do the demonstration, to not know how to make contacts with the bases. So in this case, we have a DoD Liaison, which comes mostly from our technical committees. They are available to help with site selection, making initial introductions, things like that. And then, of course, at the back end, helping with technology transition. And then, of course, selections are the same. Okay, so these are the selection criteria. This is straight out of the source selection plan for the ESTCP project. The first 2 elements are pass-fail gates. Clearly, the technology has to be appropriate. For BAA and federal organizations outside of DoD, that means it has to respond to one of our topics. For DoD, it has to be a problem that's really a broad Department of Defense-wide problem, not just a little corner of the Marine Corps problem. That's a Marine issue. The second gate is this appropriate for demonstration? And I talked about that a couple of times. That means it's not an R&D project. The R&D issues have been answered, and it's not a commercial project that just wants to get some advertising. It's in that middle band where ESTCP likes to work. Once one passes those 2 gates, then we move on to the meat of the selection criteria. Clearly, technical merit is first. Cost benefit then is the second. Transition potential, meaning how likely it is if we develop this, is it going to go into DoD use? And then finally, cost. And they are weighted in the order that they're written on the slide. So one of the questions always asked, and we just answer it right away, is what does it make to be a competitive proposal? The first one is the most important one, clearly address a topic area. I say in both this one and the Sirte project, if you find yourself squeezing or stretching to make the topic area, you're probably wasting your time. There are a lot of people that have technologies that fit right in the topic area. I certainly don't want to discourage anyone from being able to do 60% or 70%, but if you really are a solution looking for a problem, we're probably not your problem. The other second part of a competitive proposal is well-defined demonstration questions. I talked about the test plan. I talked about really having a good handle on what data are going to be collected and how are they going to be analyzed to give us cost and performance information. That's what well-defined demonstration questions requires. Clearly, we need to provide a significant benefit. That's a relative issue, though. If we're attacking something that has a $20 billion cost, a 5% cost savings is an enormous amount of money. If we're attacking some small little problem, then it may take us more significant cost savings to make it worthwhile, or improve performance, which is, of course, the trade-off for reduced cost. And then finally, this has to be technically sound. We don't really demonstrate dividing rods. We need a real technology. So now we're going to switch topics, and my colleague Andrea Leeson is going to start talking a little bit about the topics. These are the BAA and federal organizations outside of DoD topics. Remember, if you're in those 2 categories, you must address one of these topics. So Andrea, I'll hand it over to you for some slides.
Okay, thank you, Herb. And as Herb said, I'm going to start with talking about the topic areas that we've released for the broad agency announcement, as well as the federal organizations outside of the DoD. Within each of these topic areas that you'll see, there is a point of contact. So if you have a question today that we cannot answer, if it's too detailed, we'll probably choose not to answer it. You should go directly to the point of contact that's listed in the topic area to ask them the more specific question. So first presented here is a topic area on innovative technology transfer approaches. Now this particular topic area is applicable to all of the program areas. And as Herb has already mentioned, we're really focused on technology transfer under ESTCP, that once we have demonstrated a technology, we need to make sure it gets into the hands of the end users. And while we have technology transfer built into the projects that we fund, we are also always looking for innovative technology transfer approaches. What we're looking for is our technology transfers that build on perhaps a specific technology that was developed, or it could be to build on a group of projects that are working on a particular area, or it could even be to develop a new platform that would be applicable to a wide variety of topics. The point of contact for this is Herb Nelson, and you'll see that in the topic area online. Slide 19. The next two topics I'm going to talk about fall under the Environmental Restoration Program area, and the first one is on management of contaminated groundwater. In the topic areas that are online, you'll see not only the objectives that we're looking for, but also some background on the topic as far as why it's important to us. And certainly management of contaminated groundwater is a huge issue for the DoD, and so we have been looking for different tools and technologies to help us manage these sites over the years. And listed within the topic area, you'll see the types of contaminants that are of concern for us, as well as the different sorts of sites that are of particular concern. I did want to point out at the bottom of this slide, you will see a link to a chlorinated solvents workshop report. This past summer, we held a strategic workshop on contaminated groundwater, and what we did there is we pulled together a lot of experts in the field to brainstorm about where we are with the management of these sites, what are some data gaps that exist, and what should we be doing in terms of not only research in the area, but also demonstration validation and technology transfer. And the results of that workshop is provided in this report. It's really a good summary of everything that was discussed. And so if you want more details on the data gaps that were identified, please take a look at that workshop report before proposing. You'll also see that there is a link to the PFAS QA/QC guidelines. Certainly addressing issues associated with PFAS in groundwater is a big issue for the DoD right now. We have come up with this memo that's listed there that will give you some idea of some of the additional documentation we need for PFAS projects, and it's a good idea to take a look at that before you propose so that you're familiar with the sort of items we'll be looking for in terms of sampling and analysis of PFASs. Slide 20. The next slide focuses on the long-term management of contaminated aquatic sediments. Contaminated aquatic sediments are generally those that are contaminated with the PAHs, PCBs, heavy metals, as well as any mixture of those. And we are seeing some issues also with PFASs and what we may need to do with those compounds in contaminated sediments. Listed in the topic area are a number of different areas of interest for us. We have our in situ remedial technologies, application and commercialization of passive samplers for our sediments, as well as tools and methodologies for evaluating amendment placement, remedy integrity, etc. So a number of different areas there for of interest to us with the contaminated aquatic sediments. As with the previous topic area, if you look down at the bottom, you'll see that there is a sediments workshop report. This workshop is a couple of years old at this point, but many of the topics that were identified in that workshop report are still relevant and still of interest to us. So it's a good idea to take a look at that report as well before proposing. Our next topic area on slide 21 is in the Munitions Response area. And Herb, I'll turn it over to you to discuss this topic area.
Yeah, so the Munitions Response area is almost entirely focused on munitions, unexploded munitions in the underwater environment. So we've done a lot of work in the last 15 years on land environments. Now we're looking at underwater environments. And so we are looking for technologies, as the bullets say, that can detect, classify, or remediate these munitions in underwater sites. The water depths are in general less than 5 meters, although the official definition of the problem is up to 35 meters. We're looking for technologies that can do so-called wide area, meaning scan large areas quickly or to find localized spots of munitions contamination. But we also correspondingly need some detailed surveys to find individual munitions. We are looking for standardized underwater UXO demonstration site development. There's a workshop report that will be published any day now that describes that. I'm sorry we can't have the reference to that till it's clear for publication. And we're also looking for cost-effective recovery and disposal methods when we choose to remediate the munitions. Back to Andrea now for.
All right, thanks, Herb. Slide 22. So our next two topic areas are under the Resource Conservation and Resiliency program area. And the first one is dealing with the Infrastructure Resiliency Arctic Engineering Design Tool. And what we're looking for there is the development and demonstration of decision support tools for engineers and planners so they can develop information for infrastructure planning and design in the dynamic Arctic environment. We have listed there some specific capabilities that we want these tools to be able to demonstrate by the end of the project. Slide 23. Also under the Resource Conservation and Resiliency Program area, we have released the topic area on advanced brown tree snake control tools. And under this topic area, what we would like is to demonstrate innovative tools, methodologies, technologies that can help improve the efficiency of brown tree snake trapping and removal on Guam and other locations similar to that. We have a significant program on this items under Sirte, so certainly you should familiarize yourself with some of the work that's been done there. And look here in the topic area for the very specific items that we need the systems to address, such as a minimum risk to human health and safety, improving the rate at which trap encounters by the brown tree snake results in capture or morbidity, etc. Slide 24. Our next four topic areas fall under the Installation Energy program area. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Tim Tetreault to discuss those items.
Thank you, Andrea. As Andrea mentioned, we have 4 topics this year under the Installation Energy and Water program area. The first listed here is energy efficiency technology demonstrations integrated with utility energy services contracts. The motivation for this topic is to facilitate deployment of innovative, newly commercialized technologies into DoD facilities. As mentioned earlier, kind of to explain further about what we're talking about commercialized technologies. These are, commercialized technologies that are not currently or have not been currently deployed within DoD facilities. So the purpose here is to try to get those technologies deployed, even though they are currently commercialized already. So technologies, should not otherwise be included in the UESC project. In other words, we will not consider proposals that include already established technologies or solutions, and trying to use ESTCP funding only to reduce the financing term of those contracts. So again, these are really only interested in technologies that are new to DoD, although are commercially available currently. We'll consider proposals that don't fully integrate the demonstration technology within the financed UESC project, but there must be a utility interest in the project with an intent to carry the results of the project into future financed projects or into utility rebate incentive programs to which DoD can apply. You can see here a list of characteristics. There's also in the topic kind of an outline of the types of energy efficiency technologies we're interested in. I also suggest you look at the link that's provided on the topic when you download it, that goes to the Federal Energy Management Program website, where they have additional resources on UESC contracts in different regions of utilities and points of contact. So our next topic is titled Microgrid Development for Military Installations. Under this topic, we're seeking solutions that reduce the time and cost of designing and implementing microgrids on military installations. We're interested in solutions or approaches that can cost-effectively integrate with existing infrastructure, generation assets, and as well as offer flexibility for future expansion or reconfiguration to meet changing requirements. So listed here are some capabilities of interest, and these are basically a description of what we think would provide the benefits to the DoD in terms of reducing the time and cost associated with designing and implementing microgrids. So there's some good background also in the topic that's online that you can read about. But generally, the motivation here is that microgrids in recent years that have been implemented on DoD installations take a long time in the procurement process, also lots of time in the design period, and also in the implementation. So all that time is also expensive and kind of limits flexibility to accommodate maybe new lines of funding that may become available that were not originally planned for. And so it's difficult to cost effectively adjust designs or accommodate new requirements, like we said. So what we're looking for are really scalable solutions that you might allow for more easily incremental expansion as new funding is available and as requirements change. So another important aspect of this topic is that we intend to test these technologies at existing microgrid test facilities that may be already available and online within DoD or DOE or other publicly available assets or facilities, excuse me. So with the intent is that we'll do these tests first then in a lab setting to prove them out and allow for more quick kind of iteration on proving the solution and at low risk to any existing installation. And then once proven there, we would take those that we see most promising out into the field for actual field demonstration at an installation. So the next topic is effective use of utility meter data to improve facility energy investments. This is similar to a topic that was issued last year, but more narrowly focused. So we're interested here are technologies that focus on making better use of building level electricity, natural gas, and water data. So taking advantage of the existing advanced meter infrastructure that's out there being deployed and all the data that we're now able to collect, but making better use of that and maybe combining it with other data sets like sustainment management systems or real property management databases to provide more high value information to energy managers as they both identify opportunities for investing to improve facilities, but also monitor progress and benchmark against existing DoD facilities. And the fourth topic for installation energy water is innovative tools that reduce the time and cost required to obtain and maintain an ATO for facility energy and water control systems and connected technology. So this too is a topic that is similar to one we issued 2 years ago, but again, more narrowly focused this time and focusing on tools that uniquely provide some assistance to those who are going through the risk management framework process to make that more repeatable, reducing the unique time and cost for each individual ATO that's obtained, and focusing on those steps within the RMF process and addressing those specifically to reduce the labor burden on the teams that are going through that process. So I think with that, I can hand it back to Andrea to finish off the next topics.
Okay, thanks, Tim. So now we will briefly cover the DoD call for proposals, and you'll see a lot of similarity in some cases with what was presented under the broad agency announcement. Slide 29. First topic area under the DoD is the Environmental Restoration Program area, and in general, the topic areas presented for the DoD are much more broad than what we present for the broad agency announcement. In this case, for environmental restoration, we have 6 different subject areas: monitoring, reduction in cost to complete, reduced source loading of munitions constituents, stormwater treatment, wastewater treatment, and risk assessment. So all of those areas are of interest for us under the DoD call. And then at the bottom, you will see that we also reference the innovative technology transfer approaches. We do encourage DoD investigators to submit to this topic area, but we do reference you to go back and look at the BAA topic area for a more complete description of items of interest for that area. Also listed at the very bottom of this slide in very small type are a number of different workshops that would be relevant to all of these listed topic areas. These different workshops, they go back you know, a few years, from as recently as this past summer to 2 or 3 years ago. Workshops that were held 2 or 3 years ago are often still relevant and are still worth looking at in terms of, you know, what are the data gaps for our program area. Slide 30. The next topic area is for munitions response in underwater environments. And as with environmental restoration, these topics are very similar to what was presented under the broad agency announcement. And we also have listed to, again, you could look at the innovative technology transfer approaches topic area under the BAA for more specific ones there. Slide 31. Under resource conservation and resiliency, we have 3 areas listed there for the DoD. First is natural resources, emissions, and resilient infrastructure. And you can see the details of those specific topic areas there. Under the special interest topics, we're also recommending that DoD investigators can look at the broad agency announcement topic areas that were released and are welcome to submit proposals under those topic areas as well, or that respond to that topic area, and as well as the innovative technology transfer approaches. Slide 32. Under weapons, system, and platforms, we have 4 different areas of interest under manufacturing and maintenance, energetics, waste reduction, which is specific to ships and forward operating bases, and lead-free electronics. And as with all the topic areas I've mentioned so far, DoD investigators are again encouraged to also look at the innovative technology transfer approaches. Slide 33. And then under the installation, energy, and water program area, the topics that Tim just went through that were under the broad agency announcement are repeated here for energy and water. So those are the same that you'll see, as is the innovative technology transfer approach. Slide 34. So at this point, that concludes our webinar, and we will move on to the question and answer period. And Stephanie, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Andrea. We have had a number of questions. We will answer as many questions as time permits, focusing on those that are generally applicable to all submitters or logistical in nature. Please note that we will not be able to answer questions about specific proposal ideas or technologies during this webinar. For our first question, is there anything different in the 3 different calls for proposals in regards to the overall goals of the solicitation?
No, so there's nothing different in the overall goals, which is to identify technologies that can benefit both the demonstrator and the Department of Defense from a demonstration at a DoD installation. What is different is the breadth of them. You will see in some cases the DODs are a little broader on the assumption that the DoD investigators have a better handle on the DoD projects. We sometimes, for the private sector, and in several of the program areas, you've seen that, what Andrew's just gone through. Sometimes for the private sector, we narrow it down a little bit to areas that we're particularly focused on.
Our next question, can a company submit multiple proposals as the prime or participate on multiple proposals as a sub?
Yes, we do not have a limit on how many pre-proposals a single individual can choose to submit, or in terms of your participation as a sub on other proposals.
For submitters that are not a utility or UESC, are there avenues provided by ESTCP to connect with the appropriate organizations?
So we have resources at the Federal Energy Management Program. Like I said in that link, you can go find out contacts at utilities. I would, I guess, suggest first that you look at those resources and see if you can get in contact with a utility and a point of contact within those utilities that might be managing their UESC programs. Explain the solicitation. Many of them are aware of the solicitation, but you can present your technology solution to them and partner with them, which has been, I think I've seen a good way to approach. If you are unable to get any headway, you can reach out to our program office and we will do what we can to try to connect you with utilities.
Do you provide a format for the pre-proposal?
If you look in the instructions for submitting a pre-proposal, we do have particular sections that we want covered in the pre-proposal. We don't have any specific template that must be followed, but we do have certain sections that need to be included within your pre-proposal.
Could you please explain the relationship of CERDIP and ESTCP? There seems to be some overlap on the statements of need from CERDIP and the ESTCP topic areas.
That's correct. There is certainly some overlap on CERDIP and ESTCP. So the Department of Defense, I'll give you the big answer first, the big scale answer. The Department of Defense sort of thinks about technology development as a continuum, which CERDIP and ESTCP is, from basic research at the beginning through demonstration validation on to implementation. CERDIP is a research and development program, which in Department of Defense words means basic research, applied research, and advanced development, getting you to a brass board or getting you to a little test plot in your backyard. ESTCP is a demonstration validation program, which is further down the continuum to implementation. And that is that we've said several times today, demonstration on a particular DoD installation. Clearly, some of the projects overlap. There's still a lot of research to be done on PFAS detection, remediation, and quantification. So there are CERDIP topics on that. But there are also some remediation technologies that have been developed now that could benefit from a demonstration on an installation. So in the cases where we found ourselves very lucky in CERDIP and ESTCP that we can attack that entire continuum. So sometimes you'll see overlap, sometimes you won't.
Can a DoD organization be a subcontractor to a private company if the private company responds to the BAA but needs the DoD organization to execute?
We wouldn't refer to the DoD as a subcontractor to a private company, but essentially the private company can be the lead on a proposal that's submitted under the BAA, and then the DoD can be listed as a co-performer, particularly if you need the DoD organization to execute the project. And then the funding works that the private company is put on a contract with ESTCP. The DoD entity receives their funding directly from us.
Is there a list of technologies that should be the focus of energy efficiency efforts? And is there a listing of technologies already implemented by ESTCP?
So in the topic, I think this must be referring to the UESC or demonstrations integrated with UESCs. In that topic, it lists, like I mentioned, kind of an array of general energy efficiency technologies that we would be interested in. You know, really anything that would improve the efficiency of DoD facilities is an opportunity. However, what has already been demonstrated, you would have to go and look through our website and review, past projects to answer that question.
Can you provide any guidance on the typical program magnitude in terms of dollars and period of performance?
Yes, I can certainly discuss that. At the same time, though, I'm going to answer another question, which is what is the maximum value and period of performance allowed? Those are really pretty much the same question. So, I'm going to give a really whooshy answer here. It varies very much depending on the program area. For program areas that have technologies that are done in a DoD maintenance facility or in some kind of indoor things where there's not much variation, projects may be shorter. They may run 2.5 years. For technologies that involve stuff in the field in a natural environment where you have to oftentimes observe over a longer period to average out the natural variation, those projects could easily be 4 years. We have a rough goal that you should be, since these technologies are supposedly past the research and development phase and are ready to go for demonstration, you really need to be getting serious about getting in the field at the end of the first 6 months and be in the field after a year. That leaves you time to assemble equipment, tune up parameters or something. Sometimes there's long lead items and those things don't apply. But so I'm going to give you the median now. The median project is probably something like $400,000 a year for 3 years. That may be 2.5 years. But as I said, there are some that are shorter and some that are longer than that.
Does the demonstration site need to be identified in the pre-proposal?
It does not, and I'll touch on this. We had another question about the DoD liaisons. So what we do is that, particularly for investigators who are not part of the Defense Department and maybe not be familiar with the sites that are available, what we recommend in the pre-proposal is that you do not have to have a site identified. It's good to at least state what you would need at a site in order to demonstrate your technology, whether, for example, under environmental restoration, you might need to state that it's applicable to certain contaminants, you need a particular depth of groundwater, the types of site characteristics needed to be able to demonstrate the technology effectively. If your pre-proposal is selected to go on and we've requested a full proposal, we will assign a DoD liaison to your project, and that liaison will help you come up with a short list of sites that would be appropriate for your technology. They might help you identify points of contact at the installations who could help you pull together data so that you could start selecting a site. So that's the role of the DoD liaison in that process for many of the projects.
Okay, another DoD liaison question. For utility energy services contract projects, what is the role of the DoD liaison? Specifically, if the DoD base has not been determined, how does one know which utility to contact?
So I think that in this case, the DoD liaison, maybe we should just go directly to the program office, and we can help you there. But really, the utilities are the key partner here because they are ones who are familiar with what they might be interested and would carry forward in terms of technologies, and two, they also know where within their service territory are military installations that are currently interested in developing a UESC. So they're kind of a key partner in one that will provide you with a lot of information to get a head start. So I would say that the liaison, maybe, if you aren't getting anywhere, come directly to the program office and we can help you.
If you would like to respond to a topic area under the DoD, a DoD lead is required. Does that mean the principal investigator is a DoD person? And does that mean that the contract is issued to the DoD directly?
Yeah, so I'm sorry if that was not clear. When we say a DoD lead, that means the principal investigator is a DoD employee. The contract is not really the correct word to use when we talk about a DoD lab. There we use a funds transfer that's a different thing. It's an internal DoD transfer, so there is no contract. But in that case, the principal investigator works for the DoD. Money is transferred directly to the DoD laboratory. Normally it's a laboratory, or the DoD component that is the principal investigator. And then they may or may not have subs or partners that they arrange the financial transfers with.
Does groundwater include surface water?
The topic area on contaminated groundwater really is very specifically for groundwater, not surface water. In some cases where groundwater discharges the surface water, we have looked at, really that transition zone at that point, but in general, this is very specific to contaminated groundwater.
For microgrid technology development, will the test facility be provided, or are we supposed to identify the test facility in the pre-proposal?
So we are currently in process of identifying and setting up or arrangements at test facilities that we are aware of. But if you have particular interest or access to a test facility that meets your needs, you can include that in your proposal, and we will consider that as well.
How can a DoD organization use funds under this program?
Well, if you've taken your fiscal law training, you know you can't buy donuts and you can't buy coins. Other than that, I think anything that makes sense. Sometimes it is personnel time to facilitate installation or monitoring of the demonstration. Sometimes it's to compensate the Public Works Department for work that they have to do. Other times it's helping to obtain permits. So any of the normal things that would enhance the demonstration can be used by the DoD component.
For the DoD solicitation for microgrids, what costs will ESTCP cover? Will ESTCP cover solar installation, battery storage, control systems, etc.?
So we will cover the cost for equipment or technology that is integral to demonstrating the benefit of the proposed solution. So this is one of the reasons why we're going first to test beds or test facilities that may already have these types of components in place that we could leverage, rather than paying for all of this equipment to create a scenario to prove out the benefit of a particular system. So we will cover these costs if they're integral to proving the benefit. But again, we're going to be doing that first at a test facility.
Are letters of support required or recommended from the installation?
I think that's very program area specific answer. In general, they're not required, but for many of the weapon systems and platforms technologies which will be demonstrated at a depot or a repair facility, that committee really doesn't want to go very far down the road before we find out that someone has signed up to host a demonstration. So I think if you're uncertain, you should drop a note to the contact at the bottom of the topic area to ask that question. But the general rule is weapon systems and platforms, yes, they are required, and all the other program areas, they certainly can help.
Can foreign organizations submit proposals to ESTCP?
Yes, we don't have any limit on which organizations can submit proposals to ESTCP. Related to that, though, is typical for ESTCP demonstrations. We do require that those be conducted at DoD installations or at least areas where the DoD is responsible for the cleanup of that site.
Is implementation at a European site acceptable for the microgrid topic?
That we do not typically conduct demonstrations at sites overseas. It creates a lot more complexity, and there's plenty of opportunity within CONUS.
Can the long-term management of contaminated aquatic sediments topic be applied to soils as well?
That topic area was very specific to aquatic sediments, not upland soils, which is, I assume, what the questioner is referring to. So short answer is no. This is very specific to aquatic sediments.
Do you require match funding for the awards?
No. So matching fundings are not a requirement, although they certainly are something that would weigh in favor of a proposal when the committee ultimately comes to ranking them. There are many technologies that are so compelling that matching funding is not required at all. In other cases, it's a closer call, that you're in the middle group of proposals the committee's trying to rank, and to see interest from some other organization can be a helpful thing. So not required, but not a bad idea.
Is the site or utility not selected until a DoD liaison is appointed to that project?
So we recommend that you do what you can to connect with a utility as early as you can. So that may be at the point in time when you're submitting your pre-proposal, which is great. However, if you do not at the time of your pre-proposal have not made any connection with utility or a potential host site, that's fine. You can still submit that. And if we think there's technical merit to the proposal and we're asking to move forward, at that point we can help try to connect you with both a host site and potentially utility to carry or to develop your full proposal. But at the end, by the time you get to full proposal, you really need to have the utility on board and at least an indication of where your host site will be.
How should pre-proposals be submitted, and are any registrations required?
Pre-proposals and later on full proposals, if requested, are submitted through our online management system, SIMS. There's a link to it in the pre-proposal instructions on the website. Yes, one does have to register. It's password and your email address is your username. I promise you we won't send you any spam if you do that.
Can a DoD organization submit a proposal that responds to a BAA topic?
Yes, you would still submit through the DoD call, but you can see that in many of the topic areas, we referenced you back to the BAA topic so that you could see more detail about what we wanted over there. Can certainly also submit pre-proposals that are responsive to those specific BAA topics as well.
Can you comment on how to identify specific sites that might be willing to demonstrate technologies as part of a proposal?
So that's really the job of the DoD Liaison that Andrea talked about several times to help with that. If someone not connected enough to DoD to know where those sites might be, the way you handle that in your pre-proposal and even if required in your full proposal is you describe very carefully what the attributes of a site that you desire is, and then we will hook you up with one of the members of the technical committee to help you find that site. So make sure you tell us in great detail what you're looking for. That way we can help you find the site.
Can proposals submitted in previous years but not funded be submitted again this year?
They can. We don't have a limitation on that. You do need to make sure that they are responsive to the topic areas that have been released this year. But you can resubmit and try again if you had submitted previously.
Have funding amounts per topic or solicitation been defined, and if so, what are they?
So that's a yes and no question. The answer to that is yes and no, which I will give in some more detail. We have a rough breakdown of the available ESTCP funds among the program areas. That's based on perceived DoD need, importance of each of the topics. So we start with the top line for each of the program areas. As I said to you earlier, many of the demonstrations last 2.5, 3 years. So, 2/3 in round numbers of that money is already committed to demonstrations that are ongoing. That leaves a new start budget for each of the program areas, which then they rank the proposals and support what they're available to do. Right at the last step is to me, and there we try to balance off the proposals in each of the topic areas, and we may adjust funding a little bit here or there. But in general, it is set in advance.
Full proposal guidelines are clearly found on the ESTCP topic area site. The pre-proposal guidelines are a bit more elusive. Is there a link to those?
There is. If you go to our website, which is certip-estcp.org, and navigate to funding opportunities, and under there you'll come to ESTCP solicitations, you'll see there is a link under both the ESTCP Federal as well as ESTCP Broad Agency Announcement that says how to submit a BAA proposal. If you click that link, it will take you to a lot of all the topic areas, but also you'll see the link for instructions for pre-proposal preparation and submission. And in there, that file will give you the guidelines for the pre-proposal.
Will a list of organizations that submit proposals be available so that we can identify potential partners?
We will not be making public the list of contractors, entities that submitted proposals. However, once final proposals have been selected, those will be published on our website. But at that point, it might be difficult to partner for purposes of the ESTCP project, but future possibly.
Can a DoD contractor apply for an ESTCP grant on behalf of a DoD agency?
No, the DoD contractor can certainly be a subcontractor on a contract or a proposal that's submitted through the DoD call, but the lead investigator on a proposal submitted through the DoD call has to be an employee of the DoD, a direct employee.
We are a young spinoff from a proven technology company. Would it be a negative to apply through the new company, or would it be better to submit from the older company? The team is pretty much the same.
So that's also really a two-component question and answer. I don't think it's a negative in terms of getting an award or getting selected to apply through the new company, because as you'll see when you look at the requirements, a short CV has to be provided for each of the main players in the demonstration, and so people will know. There could be some contractual issues. This is government contracting stuff that I'm no expert on, so be very careful taking advice from me about this. But there is some business about, you must apply from somebody that is able to receive contract. If there's a cost structure in place to do a cost plus contract at the old company, that may be and they're not rates established yet for the new company, that may be an issue. So that's something you'd have to talk to your contracting or financial people about, whether that gets involved in the answer. I can't help you with that one.
In a microgrid project, would a sophisticated design tool to reduce time and cost be considered appropriate for inclusion?
Yeah, I think you just kind of restate one of the objectives is to reduce the time and cost associated with either the design or the implementation. So that seems to be relevant to the topic.
How are funds provided to non-federal partners on DoD-led proposals?
For proposals that are led by the DoD, we expect the DoD to subcontract to their non-federal partners.
So we're not going to read these questions, but there are a couple of questions that I think are a little too specific to answer here. There's a question about a waste-to-energy system, which I think was sent in by email before the presentation. That's a very specific system, and I think it depends on whether you're a potential DoD PI or not. So I would encourage that person to drop an email to Robin Leeson, who is the program manager in that area. You can find his email at the end of the WP topics. Ask that thing directly. There's another question about certified cost and pricing data, and seems to be a debate whether the threshold for that is $750K or $2 million. I'm very pleased to tell you I have no clue what the answer to that is, but if you will drop me an email, Herb Nelson, mine's on several of the opportunities, I'll check with our contracting people and get you an answer that you can rely on.
Okay, our next question, will feedback be provided on pre-proposals that are not selected?
We generally do not provide feedback on pre-proposals that are not selected. It's really just a staffing issue and a sheer numbers issue on the pre-proposals. We simply don't have the staff to be able to provide comments back on all of those pre-proposals.
Is there any more detail about the funding size for each proposal? Like each proposal cannot request more than $1 million?
So people in general, you can ask that question about 12 times, and I'm not going to say yes or no to that question, so that's not going to work. But I'll talk a little bit more about it. You really need to think this through, though. I gave you the mean or median or something like that, one of those two numbers. And I assume this is where this $1 million came from. Clearly, each of the program areas has more available to do new starts with than $1 million. But if you put in, I want you to think about it. If you put in a $5 million proposal, then you're going to be one of the only one or two that get funded. You're going to have to have a proposal that knocks the socks off the technical committee. In general, proposals are something like 400, 350, 500K a year for 3 or 4 years, or 2.5 years to 4 years. So that's the typical ones. They can be larger and they can be smaller. There's certainly no hard deadline, as this question may apply.
Can ESTCP help with identifying other opportunities if the proposed solution isn't a good match for ESTCP requirements?
That's going to be very program area specific, and so I would say in general we may be able to assist with that, and I would suggest you contact the program manager that's most relevant to your proposed topic and see if they can help you.
How can we avoid submitting similar ideas which have been funded or are currently in progress?
So that's where you really need to spend a little time on the Sirte and ESTCP website before you submit. The search box is medium good, so you can try searching the technology area. You can go to under the program areas tab, you can go to the individual program areas and get lists of related projects. So you can see where we're currently funding, both ongoing now and funded in the past. And I think it would behoove all potential PIs, everybody wants to propose, to become a little familiar with what Sirte and ESTCP both are funding, and that'll give you an idea of the kind of things we support and the areas that we're supporting things in.
Where can we find a list of the POCs for the program areas?
You can certainly find contact information for us on our website, but probably the easiest place to find that information is in each of the topic areas that were released. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll find the contact information for the program manager who's responsible for that area, and you can contact them that way.
Thank you, Andrea. This is the last more general question that we have received. There are other questions which are more specific to a topic area or technology. For those questions, we ask that you contact the program manager for that specific topic. Thank you for attending the webinar today. As a reminder, the presentation and audio will be archived for future reference on the ESTCP Solicitation webpage. This concludes today's webcast.